At 16:18 local time, a Russian motorized rifle brigade shut its engines down inside a frozen tree line outside a shattered village in eastern Ukraine. No movement, no radio chatter, no visible armor. They weren't retreating, they were baiting. Because somewhere beyond the low ridge to the west, a Ukrainian M2 Bradley had been pushing this sector for a week straight, probing, firing, withdrawing, repeating. And today, the Russians decided it wouldn't be leaving. For 6 days, Ukrainian mechanized infantry had tested this stretch of front. The method was consistent. A Bradley would crest the ridge, scan with thermals, fire controlled 25mm bursts into suspected trench lines, then fall back before Russian artillery could respond. It was disciplined, it was cautious, and it was working. The Bradley's Bushmaster chain gun had forced Russian infantry to stay buried. Twice, Ukrainian forces had advanced dismounted troops behind its armored cover. Once, they even captured a forward trench before withdrawing at dusk. From the Russian perspective, the vehicle wasn't just armor, it was tempo. And tempo had to be broken. Inside a camouflaged command post 3 kilometers back, the Russian brigade commander studied drone footage from the previous day. Same vehicle, same approach route, same withdrawal axis. Predictable. Predictable was exploitable. He ordered a deliberate trap, not an immediate kill, a staged one. By 1540, the tree line was no longer just a defensive position. It was a layered ambush, concealed within 800 meters of the expected engagement zone. 2 anti-tank teams equipped with 9 M133 Cornet systems, a reconnaissance drone team with thermal optics, an electronic warfare van configured to suppress Ukrainian FPV signals, a forward observer linked to a 152mm artillery battery positioned 11.7 kilometers behind the line, 2 FPV drone crews on standby. Everything was powered down. The goal was simple: look weak. No jamming, no premature shots. Let the Bradley believe the sector had thinned out. At 16:32, the familiar buzzing returned. A Ukrainian quadcopter rose slowly above the ridgeline and drifted east. It hovered for 40 seconds, scanning the Russian tree line. The Russian EW unit did nothing. No interference. The drone fed back clean visuals. Empty trench mouths, no visible armor, no thermal spikes. The drone withdrew, exactly as planned. 7 minutes later, thermal optics picked up the signature: tracked vehicle, 1.9 kilometers west. Engine heat distinct against the cooling ground. The Bradley was back. Callsign Viper 3 rolled forward at 28 kilometers per hour. Commander scanning through thermal. Gunner steady on the optics. Driver aligned along the dirt path they had used twice before. No immediate threats. The 25mm was loaded. The tow launcher was armed, but stowed. Behind them, a second Ukrainian armored vehicle waited just beyond the ridge, prepared to move if resistance appeared light. The battlefield felt quiet, but quiet doesn't mean empty. At 1,300 meters, the Russian reconnaissance drone lifted, deliberately visible this time. The Bradley commander saw it. Drone, 11 o'clock. The turret rotated left to track it. That was the cue. Because 600 meters to the Bradley's right flank, beneath layered camouflage netting and thermal blankets, a Cornet team had already been tracking the vehicle through a narrow firing slit, cut into the underbrush. Laser riding. No radar warning. No missile approach tone. Just crosshairs and distance. At 16:41, the Cornet launched. The backblast cloud dissipated in under 2 seconds. The missile crossed 600 meters in roughly 3. The Bradley driver saw the flash and accelerated hard. The missile adjusted mid-flight. Impact. The warhead struck the right frontal armor. Explosive reactive panels absorbed part of the shaped charge. The hull shook violently. Internal alarms screamed, but the vehicle was still operational. The gunner responded instantly. A stream of 25mm rounds tore into the tree line where the launch flash had originated. Branches disintegrated. Soil erupted. One Russian AT gunner was hit. The second rolled clear. The Bradley pivoted to continue suppressive fire, and that movement carried it exactly where the Russians wanted it. The ambush was never about a single missile. It was about geometry. As the Bradley maneuvered to return fire, it entered a pre-calculated artillery engagement zone, coordinates measured days earlier. The forward observer whispered into his handset, "Storm." 11 kilometers away, a Russian 152mm battery fired. The first shell landed 50 meters short. The second walked in. The third detonated 15 meters to the rear of the Bradley, lifting dirt and shrapnel into the air. Inside the vehicle, concussion slammed through the hull. The driver attempted reverse. The churned soil reduced traction. Another round landed close enough to disable exposed sensors near the turret housing. The Bradley was still fighting, but now it was fixed in place. And that's when the second Cornet fired. This team had repositioned during the artillery delay, distance 480 meters, angle side armor. The missile struck just behind the front wheel assembly. Penetration. Inside the troop compartment, fragments and overpressure filled the space. A fire ignited near internal systems. The turret shuddered and stalled mid-rotation. The Bradley had survived frontal armor. It couldn't survive the flank. Smoke poured from the rear hatch. The crew dismounted under cover of residual dust and artillery concussion. The second Ukrainian vehicle behind the ridge began reversing immediately. It never crested. Russian artillery shifted fire toward likely evacuation paths, but the disabled Bradley remained in the kill zone, and the Russians weren't finished. From a basement structure 900 meters south, Russian FPV operators launched 2 quadcopters, low altitude, treetop weaving. The Ukrainian EW systems never activated. They were out of range. One drone impacted the already burning hull. The explosion triggered secondary detonations. Stored ammunition cooked off in rapid succession. The turret lifted slightly from its housing as internal pressure surged. Flames intensified. The second drone struck the rear section to ensure catastrophic damage. Recovery was no longer possible. Within 8 minutes, it was over. The Ukrainian infantry withdrew fully. Russian AT teams displaced. The artillery battery prepared to relocate in case of counter-battery response. The reconnaissance drone hovered above the smoking wreck, transmitting confirmation imagery. 1 Bradley destroyed. 1 ambush executed as planned. The success wasn't based on superior firepower alone. It was patience. The Russians resisted the urge to jam the initial drone. They allowed reconnaissance to report false weakness. They absorbed the risk of a frontal shot failing. They shaped the engagement step by step. 1. Reveal nothing. 2. Encourage approach. 3. Trigger turret rotation. 4. Force lateral movement. 5. Fix with artillery. 6. Strike flank. And 7. Prevent recovery. Layered tactics, measured escalation. No single system won the engagement. The integration did. The M2 Bradley has proven resilient across multiple engagements in Ukraine. Its armor and fire control systems have allowed Ukrainian forces to pressure defensive lines effectively. But no vehicle is invulnerable. Anti-tank missiles like the 9 M133 Cornet, when coordinated with artillery and drone overwatch, can neutralize even well-protected platforms. In this case, the Russians didn't overpower the Bradley. They isolated it, and isolation is deadly. 1 Russian AT team was partially lost in the exchange. Artillery positions risked counter-battery detection. FPV operators exposed their signal signatures. Ambushes are never free. But from the brigade commander's perspective, the exchange ratio mattered. He traded exposure and limited manpower for the destruction of a high-value mechanized asset that had been shaping that sector for days. Momentum shifted. Ukrainian probes in that area slowed noticeably over the next 48 hours. Caution replaced tempo. And in positional warfare, tempo is everything. This wasn't a massive armored clash. No sweeping maneuver, no dramatic breakthrough. It was a waiting game. A calculated decision to hold fire until probability peaked. On today's battlefield, dominance often belongs to whoever integrates systems best. Drones, artillery, anti-tank missiles, electronic warfare, into one synchronized sequence. The brigade didn't charge, it didn't pursue, it prepared, it waited. And when the Bradley crossed the invisible line they had drawn days earlier, they closed the trap. War rarely unfolds as chaotic improvisation. More often, it is patient calculation punctuated by seconds of violence. On that frozen tree line, a Russian brigade waited, and when the moment came, they blew it all up. If you found this breakdown insightful, there's another engagement analysis on screen now you won't want to miss. Because in modern warfare, the most dangerous weapon isn't always the loudest one. Sometimes, it's the one that waits.